Good evening, everybody. I'd like to introduce our speaker this evening. Marie-Laure Buku Pongo is Associate Curator of Decorative Arts at the Frick Collection in New York. In 2021, she worked as guest curator on the Frick Madison project and curated the Gregory Gift exhibition at the Breuer Building in 2023. More recently, she's been working on the reinstallation and redisplay of decorative arts at 1 East 70th Street after a nearly 4-year renovation of the building, as well as writing and contributing to the new Frick's Essential Guide. Previously, she worked at the Palace of Versailles, working with Bertrand Rondeau, Chief Curator of Decorative Arts, to prepare the exhibition Versailles and the World, held at the Louvre, Abu Dhabi in 2022. In 2017, with Bertrand Rondeau and Daniela Kisler-Großheider from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, she assisted in the preparation of the touring exhibition, Visitors to Versailles, Travellers, Princes, Ambassadors from 1682 to 1789. As Senior Assistant and Acting Head of Service in the Mission Ameublement at the Mobilier National in 2017 to 18, and in 2020, she collaborated with Valérie Glomet, Head of Service, and undertook several projects which required an in-depth knowledge of 18th century through to contemporary French furniture and tapestries. She advised and managed the furnishing of the Élysée Palace, including the offices of President Macron and the First Lady Brigitte Macron, as well as the official residences of the French President, offices of the Prime Minister, offices of several Secretaries of State, the French Senate, the French Parliament, and French embassies around the world. Marie-Laure received her PhD in Modern History and Art History at Sorbonne with a dissertation entitled Diplomatic Gifts Offered by Louis XV, Works of Art and International Relations. She holds several undergraduate and master's degrees in art history, modern history from the Sorbonne and the École de Louvre, as well as a Bachelor of Laws and a Master in Art Market and Cultural Heritage Law from the Université Paris 2, Pension-Assas. So I'd like you all to join me in welcoming such an august and wonderful speaker. Marie-Laure, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mia, for this lovely introduction. Thank you again, Nick, for reaching out and organizing this lecture. I would also like to thank all the people who were involved in the organization of this lovely evening, and then the dinner afterwards for people who will attend. I'm delighted to be here with you tonight. As you certainly know, we've just reopened the Dimension last April after a renovation that almost took 4 years. I will start my presentation with by giving a short introduction about the collection, its founder and Dimension, to just give a little bit more context. So I will try to go around that. No, sorry. Yeah. Thank you. All right, sorry. We have a technical, sorry. Oh. Gosh. I'm trying to get up. A second. Press something that you have pressed. And I can't see. Sorry, people at home. I'm just trying to sort something out. Just see. Thank you. Thank you very much. The Frick collection, as many of you know, was created.
Sorry. Let's change the mic.
Thank you. Sorry for. So the Frick collection, as many of you know, was created by Henry Claude Frick. So he made, so that's the family, several pictures from our archives. He made his fortune after founding a company to manufacture coke and had a predominant role in the formation of the US steel, which was very important at the time.
I'm so sorry, we can't hear. Can you just speak very closely to the.
With the variable. Is it better? Perfect. Very good. The family's residence was initially here in Pittsburgh, where Frick, freshly married to Adelaide Howard Childs, bought a house that they named later Clayton. By 1905, the family moved to New York and initially rented a house that belonged to the Vanderbilt. In 1912, where was initially located the Lenox Library, and library that was then merged with the New York Public Library, bought the land and built a mansion facing Central Park on Fifth Avenue. The mansion was built between 1912 and 1914 by architect Thomas Hastings and the British decorator Charles Callan, who mostly works on the interiors, and the second floor was also partly decorated by Elsie de Wolf. During the years 1913 and 1914, Frick traveled to Europe, especially Paris and London, and made several important acquisitions to furnish his house. In 1915-16, he purchased Limoges enamels and Renaissance bronzes from the J.P. Morgan estate. In 1915, to the dealer Joseph Duveen, he acquired a table covered with a plaque by Martin Carlin. A year later, Frick purchased his first pieces of porcelain, including a pot-pourri vaisseau and a pair of oreilles. Frick died in 1919 and initially had the intention to have the mansion transformed into a museum, but only after the death of his wife, Adelaide. And in December 1935, the mansion was converted and opened as a museum. We had several restorations and renovations in the 30s and in the 70s that expanded the original surface of the mansion. The latest renovation, that project that you can see here with the extension, as I said, took almost 4 years. The big news for us is the reopening of the first floor or second floor for our American audience, which used to be formerly office spaces. Visitors are still entering through the main entrance and are still welcome, as you can see here, by the pair of mounted cover jars from the Qing dynasty with their rocaille gilt bronzes. However, there was also structural work with a brand new, you see the former space here, the skylight, and now the current version, both in the garden court and the West Gallery, as the previous ones were too far down. The fabric on the walls in that space was also made again and removed by Union, where Alum had all the textiles more than a century ago. So you can see here on the left, they still had the order and the samples, which was very convenient for us. Finally, there is of course the most obvious, the new expansion located in between the original mansion and the library created by Frick's daughter, Helen Clefrick. We have now new spaces to welcome our visitors, you can see here, and finally, for our great pleasure, especially for my colleagues and me in our curatorial department, we now have a hallway that connects the library with the mansion, which is life-saving. We also have a new gift shop, a new cafe, that's the first for us, named Westmoreland, after the private car chain used by Frick and the family to travel to Pittsburgh. We also have space for education and proper exhibition spaces. You can see here on the right, we are currently having an exhibition on Gourmet's love letters. Finally, we also have a new auditorium for music programming and lectures. You can see that we had a series last spring, which was very much acclaimed. And we have larger space for conservation, which is extremely important for decorative arts, especially ceramics, because ceramics and decorative arts in general are treated in-house, unlike paintings. My presentation tonight will, however, focus on our collection of ceramics and its most recent display at the museum. Since Frick's death, the collection has almost than double if we include everything. This is especially the case for decorative arts and ceramics, as we received over the past few years several major gifts from Diane Dwyer of Destiny, Melinda O'Sullivan in 2016, Henry Arnold from 2019, and Sidney Knaffel in 2022. It was for me and my colleagues, Xavier Salomon, Amy Ann, and Julia David, a long process, as I've said. Back when we were still at Frick Madison, it was then our temporary home on Madison Avenue in the building by Marcel Creux. We started working on the roof back, and I had to think about the installation of decorative arts. We suggested, as you can see here, that was my desk back at Frick Madison with my cup of coffee or matcha, I can't remember, probably matcha. And we suggested IT, big works, and that place. So I started with 2 small pieces of paper, went to rounds of changes. We had here a small sort of doll house to install, and then mock-ups with our designer Stephen Sanders that you can see there on the left with my colleague Amy and Julia. And then of course we had the installation and last minute changes. You can see here on the left, if you have already visited the collection, at some point I was considering plates, and then I completely changed my mind. For the ground floor or the first floor in the United States, we wanted to have galleries that look like what they used to be before we closed the mansion. The idea with this renovation was not to transform everything, and in many ways, the ground floor has minimal, and I should put that with quotation marks, changes. I'm starting here with the former dining room that was used by the family. The furniture was designed by Alan, and the table could be extended to receive more guests. You can see here the current version, it hasn't changed much. The pair of mounted vases with gilt bronzes are still under the Hoppner painting and next to the Berthoud clock. The only object I added in this room is the Dupaquier terrine from the service made for Anna Ivanovna and placed between the family hall's cupboard jars. I chose to put this work here as it made sense with the burglary works in the same room and the wine coolers, but you will also realize later that I did not have much choice. For space, many space reasons. The next room, I'm not going to go through all the rooms, but I'm going to show you the rooms that do have porcelain or ceramics or faience. So the next room is here, the Fragonard room. Again, this is a picture that was taken in the 20s, 1927, which was, these pictures were very helpful for us to think about the redisplay of the collection. So you see its current version, it hasn't changed much again. The exceptional garniture, which include the two vases oreilles and pot-pourri, and Madame du Plessis is still there on the table in the center, and and then I mean, you certainly remember these pieces if you attended last year's conference. Mia gave a fantastic lecture about Armand Lenné. The only addition for this room next to a pair of Family Rose covered jar is the tripod table that I've just shown here with porcelain plaque painted by François Bouillard. And that used to be in the room at some point, so that was logical and easy for me. You will also notice, and I'm going to show the picture here on the right, and in other rooms, flowers, bouquets, and other compositions. These were all made for the spaces by Vladimir Kanevsky, a Ukrainian artist based in New York, and they are all made of soft-based porcelain, copper, and terracotta, which is not only a nod to a collection of Vincent and Sèvres, because we like to have contemporary works tied to the collection, of course. We had in the Val a couple of years ago. But it also goes back to the opening of the museum in December 1935, when we used to have fresh flowers in the galleries, and we cannot have fresh flowers now for conservation reasons. So that's another example of the Jerusalem, and you see the Nevers orange tree and the lemon tree inside. Another example which demonstrates the fact that we did not change everything and everything remains almost the same is the fact that the living room, for instance, which is one of our most historical rooms, and it was extremely easy in a way. You see here the current version. The only change is you see under the Bellini, the Kanevsky artichokes, but everything is mostly back to its former place. The Chinese ladies from the Qing dynasty are back. The porcelain from the Conchita, sorry, and the Qing porcelain is back on wood pedestals and other places. The next room here is the library with the very low shelves, because Frick wanted as much space for his paintings, of course, which in its current version here is more or less identical. I think my colleague Jules changed and moved around a few bronzes, but we still have the Bellaigue vase, and of course the vase of Japon are only hard-based porcelain in the collection, and that entered in 2011 in honor of Anne Poulet, a former director. As we were working on the reinstallation, I did some research on this vase, and that's always a nice occasion because it's also linked to a topic dear to my heart, which is diplomatic after doing, especially the reign of Louis XV, and I hope to publish my PhD soon. But as you all know, this exquisite vase with this its orange color. I mean, Michel Pastoureau has extensively written about orange in the 19th century was commissioned by Henri Bertin. There is the painter's mark, of course, and the guillemots that were made by Charles Vizy, who also supplied a number of snuff boxes to the Affaires étrangères. For the garniture, Fallot received about 108 leaves, 36 per vase, and it was made, as you all know, after a Chinese bronzes from the Han Dynasty, and represented in, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the Chinese catalog, so we translated in English, the imperially ordained illustrated catalog of Qijing antiquities. So Bertin received, of course, a copy from Father Amiot, and it was interesting to sort of discover I did not discover the plaster, but at the same time the plaster was discovered at Sèvres and in our own collection, and I still need to find a space for this small object. We realized that we had this small porcelain that sort of connected to the vase Japon. So as you can see here, this was not the first time that objects from these volumes were copied in France. Gabriel Huquier produced several watercolors and engravings that were published in his livre des différentes espèces d'oiseaux, fleurs, plantes, exposés de la Chine qui tirent du cabinet du roi, which were published between 1738 and 1749. The first part of the album depicts mostly exotic birds. They may have been based on drawings by Oudry, and then you have the second, third, and fourth parts of the volume that include depictions of vessels in the form of animals like birds, elephants, turtle, and made after bronzes in the imperial collection and illustrated in the catalogue of the bronzes of the emperor. And even in China, as I said, several productions in the 18th century were made after that catalogue. You can see here that full-legged vessel with a spout and handle from the Channel period at the frick, and made after an ancient ceremonial bronze known as a he. So the model existed during the late Ming Dynasty afterwards, and its production was revived by the Channel Emperor who admired ancient bronzes. And we have a mark which is very interesting. And the bronze finally is also interesting because the porcelain is also very interesting because the vessel was given to the seventh Dalai Lama, so as a diplomatic gift from the Chinese emperor to strengthen Manchu control over the region. So it's sort of full circle with the vase Japon, which was probably, very likely a diplomatic gift since it was offered for the 80th birthday of the Chinese emperor. And as I was working on the collection and the installation, I was very happy to find that small vessel. In overall, for the rooms on the ground floor and the first floor, and that's what I've put this image, my attention was focused on having more labels for decorative arts, which seems strange, but the question of labels at the frick has always been quite tricky, as it is a mansion and we want to keep that domestic feel. And decorative arts are often too, as you know, overlooked by some of our visitors, not people who are attending this lecture, of course. But if paintings, labels on their frames, bronze did get labels, decorative arts did not get labels, except for a very few works such as the pot-pourri en vaisseau in the Fragonard Home or the vase Japon, or really new acquisitions. So after many discussions and debates with my colleague, you will be happy to see that I've managed to get more labels for decorative arts, including furniture, which is, I believe, a first. but also more audio stops, which I had afterwards to write and record. Other spaces in the mansion on the ground floor have slightly changed a little bit more because we now have opened the second floor. It gave me the opportunity to display more porcelain, especially Chinese porcelain that entered the collection in 1965, thanks to Charles Frick and Claire Frick's son, who was known for his great love for birds, but also Chinese porcelain. Some pieces he acquired over time, as you have seen with the small Bellaigue vessels, are extremely interesting. And our Anne Poulet fellow, Ifu Liu, is currently working with me on this collection to discover more secrets. There are, for example, here you can see these two Qing dynasty vases and this incredible portrait made around 1575 by Giovanni Battista Moroni. And I can think also shown here the pieces from the transitional period about the secrétaire commune made by Jean-Henri Resnais from Antoinette around 1780. And finally here, although I did like a lot the Comtesse de Centeville by hanging above the tea table with the porcelain garniture behind her, I'm quite happy to have them separated. So it allows now visitors to focus more on the porcelain and also the incredible table commissioned by the Duchesse de Mazarin. So the next space where I worked quite a lot is the Portico Gallery that you can see here in its version, in the picture from 1927. This space leading to one of the three gardens, that's the garden facing Central Park, was enclosed about 10 years ago to display pieces given by Henry Arnhold. So you have here the current version. As the space itself is connected to the beautiful garden, and the idea here is I wanted to see, and most at the mansion when you visit and go through the galleries, you can see all the works quite closely without any vitrine or protective glass on paintings, and I wanted to have that in that space, which is sometimes quite stressful, but we do have two security guards at work. You can see that except for a few objects, the ones that are against, in front of the windows, everything is without glass. We picked for the color of the panels a sort of dark red with an undertone of brown to ground everything. And we had a couple of options of gold, and we picked one. I was slightly worried at first, and then I realized that the mission was not to change everything, as the gallery will always hold the porcelain given by the Arnhold family, but rather give a small refresh. As we enter the gallery, you can see here sort of early pieces made at Meissen with the vodka red stoneware, and then also pieces that were imitated or were heavily inspired by Chinese and Japanese porcelain. So blue and white, of course, you see on the left side this delightful teapot with the lizard made around 1700, and across its Meissen version, or same in the middle, that was in storage, and I'm happy it's now on display. The Kangxi plate here with the gilding made in Oxford, and then you sort of see two other plates above and behind, which are sort of a reinterpretation by my son. I also wanted to have objects speak to each other, and that's something you will notice a lot when you visit, or if you did visit the Frick. It's in gray here, so I hope you can all see. But you see here two incense burners from 1720 looking at each other. It's a sort of conversation also. Then I've utilized the small panels in between the big panels. A smaller presentation. You have this panel inspired by Japanese porcelains, of course, with again a plate made, a kakimon plate, and then it's my son copy. Across this panel, that's why I also have that's also why I chose to place two here bird cage vases made around 1730 and part of a series of 2021 vases that my son, and they've all well been studied by scholars, including Maureen Cassidy-Geiger, who wrote a catalogue on the on-hold collection. So here I decided, because I was very much inspired when I traveled to Oxford. You see the example at the Ashmolean, and then the example in Porcelain, by the birds inside. And I know our visitors often had questions. And I found in storage these two small birds on artificial legs that were given, I think it was a gift coming from Manners to Henry Arnhold. And I decided to suggest the presence of the birds to put them separately on a small stand, and you can see where I'm installing them here. Here you have another panel. So I was saying the birds here that they are displayed in front of the window, and especially I want to display them there because you have these beautiful magnolias which are blooming every spring, and when you are there, you can see really the porcelain flowers with the tree and behind. So that was a nod also to that, and to still have that sort of relation between inside and the outside with the garden. For these birds, you can see here the former version, and you see that some pieces are missing, especially on the trunk, which is intentional. We did some work, restoration work here, and our incredible team of conservators work on these. We have here the parts that were that are not original to the pieces, and then here you have a picture of the process they lost. It was very scary when they lost their beak because it was broken already, and they were slightly too big, and then we uncover original surface. And we also had leaves that were added, so I decided to remove them, and our conservators also agreed. So then you have the last panels, which are slightly more German as we get closer to Diana. And I've put together a couple of pieces, and then the last panel about diplomatic gift. All these works are carefully mounted, of course, and you can see here the incredible work of packing, of head of installation and preparations, which has made all the mounts at the Frick, which is a lot of work, and they're all hand painted, because the idea is again to not have any visual obstacle. Same here with those 3 plates. I wanted something transparent so we could see the garden and we would not have a visual block obstructing the plates. We have these lovely 4 rows and then the 2 plates from the hunting service. And then you have an image of the installation with Diana. We did not put any works around her so she can read and have her space. So of course you see here, we have no labels. And that was again intentional to not create any visual obstacle, but visitors these online, either to the museum app, the website, or what we call the $5 guide, which used to be $1 or $3 before inflation. They have diagrams allowing them to have more information and listen to other stops as well. And then finally, as we move here, I'm going to speak about 2 more spaces before talking about the first floor, where we have ceramics. So we have the first one is the Limoges enamels room, which used to be Frick's office. You can see here it's a former version, and it's there in the 20s, and now the current version. So we removed the paintings because we now have more space on the first floor, the second floor. So it was an incredible opportunity for me to not only display more Limoges enamels. I had to be stopped at some point because I wanted to put a lot of them, because I really wanted to have that Rothschild taste and where rooms were packed with works. In terms of faience, I put also more. You have, of course, Saint-Porcher, a very specific production. We have 3 ewers in the vitrine, and then more dishes above the dressoir, And here again, these were in storage for the furniture and except for the dish representing the Judgment of Christ by the workshop of Horatio Fontana, the rest came from Sidney Knarford in 22. So I put all the sort of early pieces that were either French or Italian downstairs. And then finally the garden court, which has more light, and it's a garden of sculptures. And you have great masterpieces, including the Great Bustard, which is back to its former place, and this Nevers orange tree planter that was given by Sidney Knarford, and I wanted to find a space, and last minute we managed to find a space in the garden court, so I'm very happy about that. We had also conservation also worked on that piece, as you can see here, with all these that are now sort of new and a bit more stable. Finally, for the first time, our visitors can go upstairs, and that's the staircase landing here. And you have various rooms that were used by the family. They are smaller, more intimate. Some of them were recreated, others did not exist, which was quite interesting. You will see later on for the French faience. We are starting here with the breakfast room, which is here. So that was very helpful because you can see that all the paintings on the wall used to be on these specific, the sequence is identical mostly. And even for the Famille Verte porcelain on the mantelpiece, it was very easy because I put back what used to be there. Next, we have spaces that don't exist anymore. You have this bathroom that was used by Adelaide Childstrick, and because these were sort of knocked down when the mansion was transformed into a museum, then opened to the public, and these spaces were used as offices. Of course, we had to recreate new spaces. So I wanted to utilize that. There is a small passage that's very narrow, and we have now the Dupaquier porcelain. So you understand why the terrain is downstairs, because space here is extremely tight. And then you have here with the Kanevsky tulips in the tulip vase. Again, the bathroom, you really have to have that in mind to sort of understand and the space. The window has disappeared, but we wanted, because it was a bathroom, an intimate space with small format, Lyotard, Saint-Aubin, and you have the Clos du Cloc, Boucher, Chardin. For me, the idea was to anchor the room around the painting by Boucher. Many of you have seen, I suppose, La Chine rêvée de Boucher in Besançon. And as this great collector of Chinese and also Japanese porcelain, I wanted to allude to that with the display. So you see here the painting, and then this these empoignures and small bowls and wine cups that I put here. They're attached and secure. But it was also interesting because, again, I had the opportunity to study a bit more the collection, and this bowl is quite interesting. The quality and the style of the mark, which you can see here, suggests that the bowl was made in the late Ming Wanli period, as opposed to what we thought. We thought it was a Kanchi copy of the Ming prototype. So that was very interesting, because you can see here the rim of the bowl is not perfectly round, sometimes irregular, which is typical, and so that was a great discovery. And then we have the Boucher room, which is next to what used to be the bathroom, where Adelaide Childstrick could write letters, and we knew the furniture that was in this room, the porcelain that was in this room. So we found a way to recreate that. You see here, it used to be an office, the office of our former director, Ian Wardrober, and now the current version. There was too many pieces of furniture, so we had to remove I think a bergère to make sure that everything would fit and people could go in, because the idea is to, again, see the collections up close. So the Riesner table that was at the center of the room is now in the small corner for security reason, but all the furniture and most of the porcelain you see here used to be in this room. It's again like the breakfast room, very much historical room. Here you have a detail with the garniture of the pot-pourri, out of Plessis, and here I've added to the vitrine. I started looking at the archives and saw that there was, first of all, a mirror, which we replicate, and then you see plates. So I started with that, and then I built the vitrine up around these plates with pieces from early pieces, Vincennes pieces, and then later pieces from 1668. And because I like to have objects and works looking at each other, you can see here the biscuit representing Louis XV looking at his former self as a child, which I thought was extremely funny. It's an Easter egg. And finally, I will end here with this room, which used to be the bedroom of Adelaide Childsrick. All the bed, the chairs, and the rest of the furniture are not part of the collection. I don't think they exist anymore. So I could not recreate a space from scratch. But now that's another angle here. But now that's the current version. This room is entirely dedicated to a collection of French faience given by Sidney Knaford in 2022. So I use, that's the image here. I use these two commodes by Carrel to anchor the room, and you see here the dollhouse with the portrait by Mathieu. And then story for some of the pieces. There were old builds, but also pieces that were not original that we restored, which was quite interesting. And then we realized that the full heat you can see here on the basin were added later, but we don't know when. So we decided to keep them for now. And here you see, for me, this room was really about small details. That's why you see coats of arms. Right? That's why you see coats of arms. But also, for example, here you have this puzzle jug, and you can see inside a small booster. So that's why I decided to have the lid slightly up so our visitors could pick in. And that's to end, as you can see, the whole process with the faience from the small paper cuts to mock-ups and the final result. So I hope you will come to the Frick soon. This is just an appetizer, as I would like to say. So you should, I hope you will be able to visit us soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie-Laure, for that fascinating journey through the history of the Frick and your processes in creating these wonderful new displays. And thank you too for your patience and forbearance during the numerous technical difficulties. I would like to open the floor to any questions.
Thank you. We're going to see it. The blue and white bowl with the lilies, I couldn't hear what you said. It looked like a Hobbs bowl from the Chelsea period. But then I think you said that the shape was misaligned or wasn't quite such which it should be for an imperial bowl. Please would you tell us more? Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much for your question. Yes, indeed, it's a bit irregular. We are still working on it with Ifulu, the fellow, but it's very close to a palace form, really. So that's all I can say for now, because that's still ongoing work with our fellow.
Did it come via?
It came via the son Child's and I think for a very long time that collection was neglected because we thought that we had a lot of exports, and we do have some in the library. It's mostly exports with the Japon. And then we discovered years ago that we had a lot of important and interesting pieces. So that's why I want our fellow who is with us for 2 years to really work on these pieces, because he's also Chinese and he can also read Chinese, which I cannot.
Any more questions?
That's the 4. Sorry, that's the 4.
Just checking questions online. We have a question from Teal Choi, which is, does the 4-legged vessel have a Qianlong mark?
Thank you, Keel, for your question. If I remember well, yes, it has a mark, which I cannot, which was translated, but feel free to come to see it in person, because I know we looked at the mark and there was a little channel mark.
Thank you. Earl.
The soft-face contemporary flowers, are they staying for a while, or are you keeping any of them? Is there a plan for that?
Thank you all for your question. So for now, it's a temporary exhibition until October 6th. So hurry to see. Do not touch the flowers, please. Do not try to send them, because we do have a lot of visitors who try to do that, which is quite annoying. But it's temporary, because we are not a collection of contemporary art, so we cannot accession contemporary works. However, we may perhaps keep a work or two, but they all belong to the artist who can do what he wants with it.
Thank you. And we have a question online from Catherine Trouvé, which is the Sèvres vase Japon marked?
We have the double L without the F, unlike the pair at the Louvre Abu Dhabi. I don't know if it faded all the time or if it was never marked. And then we have, of course, for Rizzi marks on the mounts several times.
Thank you. Any more questions?
I was just wondering if the particle will be used, will be rotational displays, or will that be a permanent installation? And also for Sydney's collection on the 2nd floor, all his pieces out on display, or will that also be rotated continuously?
Thank you for your question. Can you hear me? No, not really. Thank you very much for your question, Rebecca. For the portico, it has been sort of in doubt, so we have to have on display mice and porcelain. And although I can change a little bit, most of the pieces are out, which was what I wanted. So I'm very happy. So there is not much in storage, really. And for the ceramics room, Sidney Knapo, the room is also sort of endowed, but for ceramics. So it could change in the near future if we acquire more ceramics. But again, he gave us about 75 works, and they're almost all out. conservation needs to work on a couple of them, so we might rotate a few objects to allow that work to happen. But most of the objects are also out. But we could have, for instance, porcelain there.
Thank you, and I think you've answered the online question from Simon as well about the permanence of the displays. Any more questions? Well, without further ado, please can you thank Marie-Laure again